you have to know what you're going to say, think about it, and be willing to cut your sentence off at the point that it needs to be cut off. We ask questions, and what I notice is that people want to explain their questions. Have you ever asked a question and you were like, well, you know, I was thinking about this, and this is what I saw, and do you know, should we do that? And I'm asking because it's like, hold on. Just say, should we do that? Short question, be brief. When you're telling a story, be brief. So what I've noticed is that bottom lining is really, really hard. I see some head shaking. Yeah, it's really hard. Why? Because it takes a lot of self-management, but also it's the ability to decipher what really needs to be said. So with that said, I want us to practice. What I'd like you to do in just a moment is I'm going to have you partner up with someone close to you, and I'm going to have you tell a story. You can choose from an example that I give, or you can make up your own example. One story that you might choose to tell is, this is my agile journey. This is how I got to where I am right now and where I want to be 5 years from now. Is that an interesting story to anyone? Yeah, kind of interesting? How about the thing that frustrates me the most about the company I work for? Is that a good story? That resonate with some of you? Cool. How about the most exciting thing I've ever done? Does that resonate with you? Or you can make up your own. So grab a partner, and this is your duty, your task. I want you to tell that story. You've got 1 minute. At the end of that 1 minute, we'll switch places. Your partner will tell their story, and then we'll see what we learned. Y'all good with that? Okay, let's go. Grab a partner. You're halfway through your time box. And you've got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, time box. I'm going to give you just a second to gather your thoughts and breathe, because that was a very fast exercise. Now let's switch sides, and let's give the other person a chance to tell their story in 1 minute. Ready? And go. You're halfway through your time box. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, and your time is up. Self-management, self-management, self-management. Time box. Okay, Scrum Masters, it's your job to teach people to work within a time box, right? So what's happening here? So, no, really, tell me what you learned. And you're going to have to speak loud because we're kind of spread out. But what did you learn? Yeah.
I learned that some people are fulfilling a need for the team, and while others, this is their position that they've chosen and just their different experiences.
Okay. So some people are filling needs within a team, and for others, this is what you do. So you practice bottom lining. For those of you who did this, was it easy? Raise your hand if that was easy. Did you get through your whole story? Because that's how we know if it was easy. How many of you did not get through your story? A couple of you? How many of you found it was hard? And the rest of you did not participate. You were talking about desserts. Okay, it was good, huh? So what else did you learn about bottom lining? Anything?
I think if you know the bottom line concept, you don't even need 1 minute to talk about it.
Yeah, if you get this and you know the skill, you don't need a minute because you can sort through your mind and say the really important things, the essence of what I'm saying is this, this, and this. If you want to know more, you'll ask. What else? I saw a hand back there. Yeah, if you have a goal in mind, you know what you need to get to. You know the main thing they need to hear, so they don't need all the details in order to take that ride with you. Sir, did you have something you wanted to add?
On the listening side, it made it more, I wanted to ask more questions to find out more about what she was talking about.
That was a beautiful observation. I'm going to repeat it. He said from the listening side, it made me want to ask more questions. Have you ever been in a conversation with someone and you're like, I am going to hang myself if you don't shut up? Yeah. I've been in a lot of those conversations. But what happens when you're in a conversation, ladies, with your husband, and you say, how was your day? Tell me what you did. I woke up and I got dressed. I'm done. Right? So, not revealing everything makes people more curious. If they want to know more, they will. It's the same concept that goes with the asking powerful questions. You don't have to make your questions paragraphs. 3 to 7 words are the most effective questions. And if they don't understand, they'll ask, and then you can rephrase the question. So was that fun? More importantly, who needs to practice this skill for when you go back? Yeah, a lot of you, everyone. This is a skill that's really important, especially if you're working with managers, people like that, who they've got like 4 seconds, tell me what you need, and give me 3 bullet points. When we write emails, we also have to learn how to bottom line because people don't read like more than 12 words. So the next group of coaching skills that Scrum Masters can bring into their world and use with their teams are called the relational and forwarding skills. These skills are the ones that help you with the coach build bonds with your team so that you can bring power to the coaching relationship. The forwarding part of this is when we use these skills, we help teams to go beyond where they would have gone. So maybe your group came up with a solution to a problem they wanted to try, and they're like, yep, got the answer, we're good. And you're like, slow down, hold on, wait, let's talk a little bit more. And then you ask them some questions and help them go a little bit deeper. Some of the skills that are in this group, one is accountability. And I brought this up because accountability can be used like for evil. The accountability that we have in coaching is not used for evil, it's used for good. So when we hear accountability, oftentimes we think of accountability. You said you were going to do this, and I'm holding it right here, and I'm holding you to it, and you better do it. How many of you have experienced that kind of accountability? It's fun, huh? Makes you like totally motivated, can't wait to do exactly what you're doing with that rope that you're going to tie around my neck. That's not the kind of accountability we want from a coach. With coaching, accountability looks different. It looks like this. So, you said you wanted to do this. How'd it go? They can say, I didn't do it, and that's okay. Our response is, what'd you learn? Not, why not? So with accountability as a coach to your team, what you're doing is you're being a mirror and you're helping them be accountable, self-accountable. Your role as a Scrum Master, if you're doing this, you're a Scrum Master. If you're doing this, you're a Scrum Master. So your goal as a Scrum Master is not to be someone with a whip. You're there to help them grow and to learn from their experiences and to be self-organized and to make decisions, and you're there to help them along that journey. These next two are pretty close. They're challenging and requesting. So what requesting is sometimes, even in your role as a Scrum Master, even though you have self-organizing teams, sometimes there comes a time when the team is not able to move forward for whatever reason, and you need to make a request. So I'll give you an example. One of my Scrum Masters that I coach has a team that they kept for like 3 sprints in a row. They were bringing work into a sprint, and then they weren't finishing it. And they kept tripping up. And every retrospective, they were like, yeah, I think we need to break our tasks down smaller. But then they just abandoned that idea. So after 3 sprints, he finally said, hey, can I make a request? Can we just experiment? Just for 2 weeks, can we just experiment? Will you agree to break your task down smaller? And let's see what happens. So that was a request. The responses that your team can have to a request, and you'll need to teach them this, is that they can say yes. His team had the option to say, yes, we'll try that. But they also had the option to say no. They could say, nope, we're not going to do that. We're going to do something else. The third option with a request is to counteroffer. Maybe his team could have counteroffered and said, well, no, we're not going to break all 5 of our stories down into smaller tasks, but we will experiment with 2. Okay, good. Now we've got progress. Challenging is the same thing, but on steroids. So challenging is actually challenging someone to do something that goes beyond what they think they can do. Like getting them to do something and their heart stops and they're like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. I'm not sure I can do that. But remember, they've got those same 3 options. They can say yes, they can say no, or they can counteroffer. So I'll give you an example. I had a Scrum Master that I was working with, and he was dealing with a lot of fear. He couldn't move forward helping his teams because he was so afraid to look like an idiot. He was like, I can't do anything because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm afraid if I do something, I'm going to look stupid, so I just say nothing. So in that coaching session, what I did was I challenged him. I said, I want to challenge you. Before we meet again in 2 weeks, I want you to fail 5 times. I want you to go out, I want you to try everything, and I want you to fail 5 times. And he was like, yeah, I'm not going to do that. But I'll do it once. So I was like, cool. He was still able to move forward. About a week later, he called me. He was like, guess what? I just failed. And he's like, cool, what'd you learn? He's like, I didn't die. Yes! What are you going to do next time? I'll try again. It's okay. And then he was able to grow. So that's the power of challenging. The next group of skills that we have are the creative thinking skills. These fit really great in an agile environment. And a lot of these you're probably already doing. The first one is perspectives, coaching perspectives. So what that is helping people to see things from more than one avenue, from more than one perspective. So maybe your team's in some conflict and they're talking about, the big bad wolf on the other team that won't listen to anything they say, and they need stuff and that team won't do it, and they're dependent on them and they keep making them fail and they're whining about it. Perspectives coaching is, hey, so could we take a break for just one moment And let's all step over here and look at this from the perspective of the other team. What do you think they're thinking right now? And help them start to see things from the perspective of the other team. And then maybe we put them in the perspective of the customer and say, so what do you think our customers are saying right now? What do you think our managers are saying right now? And then, because helping them to see different perspectives helps them to actually see a little bit more truth and to make better decisions. Geography is another skill that's in the creative skills. And geography is about the use of space. So literally having people move from one space to another. So in that last scenario, you could actually tell the team, they're sitting over here and they're in their retrospective, and you could say, everybody get up. Let's get up. Y'all come over here. Let's look over here. Now stand over here and look at this from the customer's perspective. And you've moved them to another location. Just the act of moving people and shifting, even if it's just switching chairs, it helps them see different perspectives, and it helps them move forward just a little bit. It might sound like a really silly thing, but I'm telling you, it is so powerful. One example that you can, I think, relate to is when we're in meetings and we've got the big conference table in front of us, there's not much intimacy, right? But then when you get up and you're actually talking face to face, it creates something new. So that's why oftentimes we'll have you move in these sessions and go stand up with somebody and talk to somebody rather than talking across the table. There's two more in this group. One is structures. Structures are a physical thing that help people, that people can relate to in order to remember the direction they want to go in. I'll give you an example of a structure that you probably all have. A Scrum board is a structure. It's a physical thing, probably on your wall, where the team can look at it and they can say, we know the goal we're going after. This sprint, that's the work we want to do. So they can focus on that, and then they can devote their energy to that. Information radiators, those are structures where people can see what's happening and they can know what's going on and they can remember who they want to be or where they want to go. Those are perfect types of structures that you could use in an agile environment. I have one group that uses a structure that's a rubber duck. And it's their thing. And they all have a rubber duck on their table. And the rubber duck is to remind them of something called rubber duck productivity. Have you ever heard of that? Rubber duck productivity? You have, great. Rubber duck productivity is the thought that when we have a problem and we talk it out with someone, then we can usually figure out what's going on just by the simple act of talking it out. So what people have noticed is that by putting a rubber duck on their desk, when they have something to discuss or something they're trying to work out, they can talk to the duck. And then they talk to the duck, they're like, hey, duck, so I got this problem, and this is what's going on. But the duck as a structure is to remind them, oh yeah, go talk to the duck. And they get up and they go talk to their team members. And then they can work through the problem. Instead of struggling through it for 4 hours, they struggle through it for 4 minutes, and then they see the duck and they're like, oh yeah, that's what I'm supposed to be doing. Then the last one is metaphor. You've probably used metaphor in your retrospectives. That's a great place to use metaphor. Have you ever drawn the sailboat thing? And if this team were a mode of transportation, what would it look like? Those types of things are metaphor. And what it does is it helps people to think outside the box. It helps them to untie from the situation they're in, from the problem that they're having, or the thing that they're trying to figure out, and really just back up and look at it from a meta view. So I want to teach you a skill called impact feedback. How many of you have heard of impact feedback? A few of you? Great. And this is going to be fun for you. So let me tell you what impact feedback is. It's a skill that we use when coaching teams. It's not a coaching skill, but what it does is it combines a bunch of coaching skills in order to help communicate. It's a part of having conversations, sometimes crucial conversations. You can use impact feedback to give people good impact feedback, actions that they had that were positive on you, and then you can use it for things that they did that had a negative impact on you. What impact feedback is not, let's start there, is performance feedback. When we give impact feedback, it doesn't sound like your speech today was really good. That's performance feedback. Impact feedback would sound like, when you gave your speech today, I was motivated. Can you see the difference? The impact it has on you is the impact that it has internally on you and what it created in you. So we're not talking about them, we're talking about the behavior they did, and then how it impacted you. So there's 3 steps. First, we clearly talk about the situation. Yesterday, when you arrived at the daily scrum late, very clear, this is the situation. So what that does is it helps them to take their mind and go back to that day. So they're like, okay, yeah, yesterday I was 5 minutes late to the daily scrum. Okay, I'm with you. And then the next piece of it is you discuss their behavior. You state directly what their behavior was. Well, I guess I did that already. Yesterday at daily scrum is the situation. When you were late, that's the behavior. And then you give the impact that it had to you. I got frustrated. I was concerned. I was worried. And then you stop there. Let them hear it. Let them process it. And then they'll probably ask you, if they're really interested, they'll ask, well, why were you concerned? What's going on? And then it opens up the space to have a conversation. Any questions on impact feedback? Because this is something that I want to make sure you understand. You would probably do it, it depends on if it's positive or negative and what you're trying to do in the room. So if it's negative, oftentimes you would do it one-on-one if somebody had a negative impact on you and you want to bring it out. But you might choose to do it when you're coaching the whole team. So maybe the whole team's trying to move forward and they believe that we can solve a problem. They're in backlog grooming and they're having issues. And then someone's like, you know what, man, this sucks, I'm done. Then you might in that room say, hey, I don't know really what's going on with everyone else, but when you stood up and said, man, this sucks, and started to walk off, I felt violated, or I felt betrayed, or I felt afraid. And so what do we want to do with that? So I'd say you have to use judgment on why you're doing it. If the intent is because they acted like a jerk and you want to act like a jerk too, probably hold that one for later. This is going to take some self-management. So there's a couple of coaching skills involved with impact feedback. Direct communication. Because we have to be willing to actually have direct communication. Now, this could be good. Don't forget that impact feedback can be positive. The best way often to practice it is actually by giving positive impact feedback, and you can do that usually always publicly, unless that person's like, no, I don't want you to do that. So yesterday, when you closed that story that you weren't even supposed to be working on, but you jumped in and helped close it, I felt very encouraged. Okay? So direct communication. This also uses self-management. Why? Because we have to, number one, recognize what the emotion is that's in us. Oftentimes you're going to do something like, I felt like you were. You can't feel like you were anything. That is a judgment. So impact feedback is judgmentless. It just simply says what is. And then bottom lining, be brief, only say what needs to be said, and then leave the space open, use silence, so that y'all can then interact. Okay, so we're gonna practice this, and I'll give you just a little bit of instruction so that you don't get confused. We're gonna pair up with one other person. You'll have about 3 minutes, and then we'll switch places. So what I want you to do, and you can be doing this part right now, is think about a situation at work or at home, wherever, where something happened and you would like to give some impact feedback to someone. You would like to let them know what the impact of their actions were to you personally, so that y'all can have a discussion and come to a healthier place. We're going to start the timer, and with your partner, person number 1, give that impact feedback. It might sound like, Billy, yesterday when you brought me candy for my birthday, I felt honored. Then what'll happen is the person you've just spoken to, your Billy in this situation, they're going to give you impact feedback. Cherie, when you use the word honored, I think I said I was honored. Is that what I said? When you use the word honored, that made me feel special. Or when you use the word jerk, that made me angry. So, and what this will do is it'll help you learn to give impact feedback. It'll give you both practice, but it'll also help you understand the power of your words. Now, when you give impact feedback, you're going to have to understand what that emotion is before you try to speak it. And then at 3 minutes, we'll switch, and then we'll let the other person go. Once you get your feedback from your first person, like I spoke, you told me what it felt like, try again until you feel like you've got a good statement. Use this to your advantage so you can actually go back and have this conversation. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and grab your partner, and then we're going to start the timer in just a few minutes. I'll give you 3 minutes for your first person. You've got about a minute left. Person number 1 has about 30 seconds left. Okay, and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, everyone, let's stop for just 1 second. Everybody take a deep breath. Let's shake that off. You're no longer in that situation. We're going to go into a whole new situation. Person number 2, get your thoughts together. Think about what that emotion was. And let's go ahead and take about 3 minutes and let you practice. Ready? Go ahead and go. Oh. Okay, you've got about 30 seconds left. About 10 seconds. Three, two, one. Okay. So, was that easy? Was it easy? No. Who found that difficult? Yeah, it is kind of difficult. It sounds really easy. It's kind of like Scrum, right? I can teach it to you in like 30 seconds, and it's going to take you like a year to master. So when I work with Scrum Masters and teach them this skill, we generally practice it over and over for like 3 months until they feel like they can actually do it. The big thing to remember is don't start talking about their actions. When you did this, you were. It's when this happened, when you did this, I was. It's you taking accountability for your emotions and saying, well, now let's you put your stuff in the middle of the space and then let's talk about it. And then it gives you a chance to actually figure out what's really going on. So did you learn anything through that exercise? Yes. What are some things you learned? Yes, ma'am. So using feelings in a corporate setting is different. We're supposed to be antiseptic, right? We're not supposed to use feelings. But the truth is, when we work in agile environments, there's these things in them, and they're called people. And when we're on teams, there's this big thing, and it's called relationships. And what happens is, even if we don't talk about those emotions, they're there. So why don't we just quit playing games and talk about what's in the room? And then we can go on from there. Because what happens when we don't talk about those emotions? They fester. And we make a bunch of assumptions about what the other person did and judgments. And we all know what that leads to, right? Some big mess that doesn't even exist, but it just keeps blowing up. And it tears down the ability to collaborate. It tears down the ability to be good teams. So what's something else you learned? Yes, ma'am.
To really appreciate being intentional, kind of what you were talking about earlier, because it takes you being in the moment, thinking through, expanding your vocabulary to express what you're feeling.
Yeah, there's a skill there to what she was saying was being in the moment, to being able to expand your vocabulary into this thing called emotions that we don't have any vocabulary around, and to really understand what's going on. It's very powerful. So then I'm going to ask a different question. How could you use this to change your environment with your teams? Any thoughts? Yeah.
It introduces some vulnerability and trust.
Yeah. It introduces vulnerability and trust. You can teach this to your team. You don't just have to go in and be like, undercover spy, I'm doing this thing, you don't know it, Coach Ninja. You can actually teach them, tell them what I'm doing. Let me teach you something here. It's a communication skill. Because when your team has conflict, and they come to you, you can say, hey, remember that thing about impact feedback that we talked about? Let's practice how you can do that with Joe, because I really can't fix it, but who can fix it is you and Joe. And you can teach them to have healthy communication. Okay. So any other comments? We have time for one more comment. Any other thoughts? Yes.
Sometimes when you're bottom lining, you need to be careful with the words you choose. Christy, she said, it made me concerned. And that opened it up to be concerned that I have mental issues. And her concern was that the idea that you felt about not wanting to put story points up on the board would spread to other people, which actually might be what he wanted. So choosing your words with the bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it opened up to conversation, though, too, you know. So, yeah, we have to, I'm sorry, all of you might not have heard, when bottom lining, choosing your words carefully. And that's why I wanted to do this exercise where you were able to give impact on the words that you actually chose, and then learn how to select different words that have the right impact. This is going to take a lot of practice. It's not something you know and walk away with in one day, and you're probably going to give a lot of performance feedback. But go back, evaluate, and try again and learn some things. So I appreciate you coming out today. I'm going to have on my website in the next couple of days some descriptions of these in written form. There's actually about 40 coaching skills that Scrum Masters can use. I've only talked to about 12 today, just for simply the sake of time. But I'll have some videos out and some documents out showing what some of this information is, so you feel free to look those up. This is my contact information. If you want a card, I'll be glad to give it to you. Just stop by. I really appreciate you coming out for this today. I hope that it was valuable to you and that you'll be able to actually use some of these skills when you return to your workplace. So have a great day.